Louisiana Politics.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Well, this week, a bombshell 32-page report from the U.S. Department of Justice came down about the Louisiana State Police. The feds say Louisiana State Police use excessive force on all people who comes in contact with them, and troopers escalate minor incidents. The DOJ opened a pattern and practices investigation into LSP following public outcry from the death of Ronald Green, when body camera video was released during his arrest. This investigation is separate from the criminal probe, where the feds announced this week they were not filing charges in Green's case. But the report says the repeated conduct of state troopers in other incidents violates the Fourth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Attorney General Liz Morrell responded to the report, stating, quote, "This report follows months of U.S. DOJ inactivity and virtually no engagement with the state. It is unfortunate that political appointees of the U.S. DOJ are continuing to use the agency to advance a political agenda. We will continue to ensure that LSP is the finest law enforcement organization in the country and have a deep respect and appreciation for all of Louisiana's law enforcement officers who put their lives on the line for the citizens of our great state each and every day, and they have our steadfast support." Louisiana authorities are clearing homeless encampments around the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans ahead of next month's Super Bowl. Governor Landry announced the sweep as a way to secure areas in the state ahead of the big event. Ashley Hamilton reports.
Before the sun could rise Wednesday morning, officials conducted a sweep of the homeless encampment near the Superdome. The unhoused were asked to put all their possessions in a box, which would be transported to the new transitional center in Pontchartrain Park.
We're going to ensure that people's personal property is secured and sent to the transitional facility where they'll receive wraparound health care and medical services.
The center, which is a multi-million-dollar warehouse, can house up to 200 people. Contractor Stacy Horn-Koch says round-the-clock transportation will bring people to work in medical appointments. In addition, each person will receive a case manager
to figure out which type of housing intervention is going to be best for them, and process of working on their discharge to the appropriate housing intervention.
That's an abuse of government power.
Those against the center say they wish the move was better planned. One unhoused individual brought to the center says, with cold temperatures expected soon, the warehouse is unfit to house people.
We were told they had heat. It's an open warehouse. It's about as big as this block, and there is no heat. The bathrooms have heat, but we don't.
We've dropped HVAC systems throughout. It is well climate controlled.
Protesters also argued that the move shows that if the government wanted to house those on the streets, the money was always there. It was just not a priority.
Some of us did the math today and yesterday. With that $16.2 million, we could house over 1,000 New Orleanians who currently lack housing in studio or one-bedroom apartments for 12 months.
A New Orleans judge granted the request of the city and the Department of Justice to begin phasing out the NOPD consent decree, which is a 2-year probationary period in which there will be less federal oversight. The judge said the department's policies have been revamped, leading to substantial compliance with the consent decree. The sustainment plan will allow the NOPD 2 years to focus on areas of improvement that will be observed by the monitor and court.
She also mentioned particular issues with domestic violence cases. How many times have you all covered those particular inquiries coming from the city council? So there's still work to be done, but the sustainment period is a really big deal.
The sustainment period is already underway, and the chief says she looks forward to achieving full compliance and regaining the community's trust. Louisiana legislators are trying to figure out how to allow local governments to get more of the share of revenue from carbon sequestration projects in their areas. The controversial projects have communities on edge now and wanting a cut of the profits. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht brings us a look at the discussions.
We just want a little bit because we're taking a risk.
The relatively new industry of carbon sequestration has been a point of contention between community members, industry, and politicians at the Capitol for years. Now that the interest is ramping up, state and local governments want to make sure they get their fair share of the cash flow. Once carbon is injected into the earth, companies have to pay $7.50 per ton that they put in on state lands. Locals get 30% of those revenues. They don't, however, get money from private or wildlife management lands that have wells.
It's just a floating number, as testimony was had by DNR. It just depends on the agreement and where it is and the company that wants to pay it. It's your responsibility, it's not ours, but I think it makes sense for us to have a consistent fee.
There are 30 proposed projects with about 89 wells awaiting proper classification and approval for projects to move forward. The federal government recently allowed some states primacy to award Class 6 permits to let more carbon sequestration projects to move forward.
Tell me what the holdup is, because we're losing to other states. You know, other states, this is a global investment. This isn't a, this isn't a parish to parish or we're going to run around the neighborhood grabbing some money.
The Louisiana Department of Energy and Natural Resources states it'll take up to 2 years after a permit application is submitted to do the appropriate research and testing of a well before injections can begin, with the first projected to be approved early this year. The legislature is also going into a fiscal session that will allow them to pass laws that impact revenue streams, such as making an injection tax to get some revenue from private land wells or other ideas. For your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
This week, you'll know whether seafood you order at a restaurant is from Louisiana. A new law will kick in requiring that information to be labeled. The law mandates that if a retailer, restaurant, or supplier sells imported shrimp, crawfish, or other seafood, it must be clearly labeled as such. The Seafood Safety Task Force says it is not trying to go after any particular restaurant or seller. The goal is for people to be aware of what they're buying when it comes to seafood.
Basically, if the package of imported seafood is deemed misleading as to its origin, in other words, if it says Boudreaux's and it's got a picture of a Louisiana shrimp boat and Louisiana scene, then under the law it's got to have product of whatever country in 30 font on the front of the package.
And the Seafood Safety Task Force wants to transfer the responsibility of enforcing the law from LDH to the Ag Department. Coming up, Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry heads to Congress to ask for help. We'll tell you why. And one Louisiana senator weighs in on the TikTok ban. Stay with us. We'll be right back.